Now, there are times when you want to save a bunch of presets or a bunch of effects, but you don't want to necessarily clutter your effects folder with them because maybe you're only using them occasionally, or maybe they're for a specific show, and you want to find a way to save them without all that clutter. So a great trick is to actually use another project, create a project exclusively for your favorite effects. And you can even create that project from within your current project by creating a fresh sequence and then putting in some placeholder clips. And in this case, I'm going to use just a color matte and apply those effects to the color matte. Now, it may sound a little more complicated, but once you see it, you'll see how easy and efficient it is. Now, I have an open timeline here, and I've already created a couple of color mattes where I've applied effects that we learned earlier on in the course. We have that TV effect, and I have an effect where I'm going from black and white to color, and it's not the traditional black and white. If I go ahead and click this, you see it's that calculations black and white that gave me a really cool look. That's something I may want to use over and over again, and it's worth saving. Now, we previously created a great little picture-in-picture with a little bit of distortion and a lens flare, and I want to save that and move that across. And that was in sequence 4.3. So let me go ahead and reopen that sequence and still keep the current sequence open. As you can see, I have that effect already in place, and I want to be able to now copy that onto a new clip in my new timeline. So let's go ahead and switch back to that first timeline and create that color matte. And you can get to that down in the new menu icon, and you'll see a list of things that you can generate. And the reason I'm using a color matte instead of a clip that might be in my show is that anybody can open up this project file and you won't have files that are offline because it's self-generated by Premiere Pro. So I'm going to choose color matte, and I like to use a color because sometimes it's hard to see an effect if it's on a black clip over a black background or a transparent clip over a transparent background. So we can go ahead and use a color matte. If there's an effect that I want to be able to see, perhaps a blur, I might choose bars and tone because that allows me at least to have something visual that I can see how the effect is affecting the clip. Now, once I click Make a Color Matte, it will come up with this dialog box. I'm simply going to hit OK. It's going to be a perfect match for my sequence. And then I get to pick a color, and you can pick whatever color you want. I think I'm going to choose green. Simply going to press OK, and this color matte will appear in my project pane. I'm going to go ahead and change that to green and click OK. The matte now shows up in my project pane, and it's ready for me to drag into my timeline. Once I drag it into the timeline, I can step back to my previous project. So I'll go ahead, select the clip. All the effects parameters open up in my effects control panel, and let me select which effects that I've created that I want to transfer to the matte in my other sequence. We'll grab the lighting effects, basic 3D, the drop shadow, and I want the animated motion. I'll simply copy that with Command-C or Control-C, step back over into my new sequence, select the green matte, and do a standard paste. Now, all of my effects are on this clip, and I have the animation. The last step is to make sure I rename green matte to the type of effect that I've created. So in this case, it's a animated picture-in-picture. So I can right-click on the clip, go down to Rename, and rename it Animated Picture-in-Picture. Now what's really cool is I've already created this green matte once, so I don't have to, again, reinvent the wheel. I can simply grab it and drag it to my timeline over and over again, and then on each instant, drag a new effect that I want to save. Once I've prepared all of the effects on my sequence, I'm ready to export that and save it as a self-contained file.